You are listening to the Pimp Your Brilliance podcast, and this is episode number 43. This episode is brought to you by the Fear Guide, 7 steps to silence your fear and take action. If the chorus of fear is regularly singing you out of your dreams, you need to grab this short read jam-packed with exercises that will help you quiet your fear long enough to take the next teeny tiny step. You can grab a copy by visiting thefearguide.com. Welcome to the Pimp Your Brilliance podcast with Monique Malcolm, a show about creative people leveraging their brilliance to create their own opportunities. I aim to show you what's really possible when you shut down the chorus of fear and lean into your genius zone. You can learn more about this show and subscribe for updates by visiting keepchasingthestars.com/podcast. Hey Star Chasers, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pimp Your Brilliance. I am your host, Monique Malcolm, and this is a show for creatives and side hustlers who want to make a living through their creative work. Sometimes it's just me on the mic sharing bits of my journey and actionable strategies for you to try out yourself. Other times I'm interviewing amazing creative entrepreneurs that have leveraged their own ideas to create their own opportunities. Today, I have an interview for you. And my guest is Jeanetta Gonzales, who is a Los Angeles-based designer and artist. She's a lover of pattern, color, and design, and she works as a surface designer, graphic designer, and an illustrator. With degrees in fine art and graphic design, she began her career as a graphic designer working in design firms and corporate companies such as WedMD, Mattel, and the Disney Store. She later parlayed her digital and fine art skills into surface design, working as a textile designer and style guide designer for consumer products. And now she's recently opened her own store selling products with her own illustrations on it. So she does quite a bit of things in the graphic design world. And in this episode, Jeanetta is sharing with us how she got started as a graphic designer after obtaining a degree in fine art, how to overcome creative blocks, and 3 ways to get started with art licensing. So if you're ready, grab a pen and a notebook and let's dive in. Hey, Jeanetta, welcome to the show.
Hi. Hey, Monique. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. And it's been a long time coming, so I'm extra excited to have you because I've been trying to get you on the show for a while. And I know you've had a lot of different things going on. It's good to be busy. So I am really interested in hearing your story, especially since you know what I realized as I was doing some research on you to figure out like what I wanted to ask you about. I was like, I've met you several times in person and we've hung out, but I don't really know that much about like your background besides the fact that you do art. So I'm excited to be able to dive in a little bit more into actually some of the other stuff that you do besides attend cool conferences that I also attend.
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy to share.
Awesome. Okay. So let's kind of take it back a little bit. Give us a bit of your background. Tell us who you are and how you knew that you wanted to become an artist.
Okay. My name is Jeanetta Gonzales. I am an LA-based artist and designer. And my background, let's see, it begins, I think I've been doing art and creative work since I was a kid. I think I just always knew because it's just always what brought me joy. And my parents encouraged it, which I think is a big part of that, especially when you have parents that, you know, give you crayons and paints and things from a very young age and just, you know, want you to play with them and make stuff. So as long as I can remember, I've always been doing that. For me, it's always been there. It's always been a part of my life. I left the East Coast and I came out west to UCLA, and I was in the fine art major in the art department. I just wanted to have fun with what I was doing, and I didn't want to have to make art that was so deep and that was so me. It was like, I just want to enjoy what I'm doing. And so what happened was they had a design department there, and I'm ancient, so this was early 90s. Oh, honey, I am a lot older than I look. So we're talking early 90s, and they didn't have graphic design then like they have now. So I found out, well, I knew they had a design department, but the design department it was pretty lame. There weren't that many people in it. It wasn't much to learn because I had looked into it and everyone said, don't do it. So I don't even know what they were doing in the design department. It wasn't much, but about, I think it was like late in my junior year, I found out that they got funding to put a computer lab in, and they were gutting one of the galleries and they were putting computers in, and they had all these instructors coming in they were teaching Photoshop and design, like proper design, which was really just kind of starting at that time, computer digital design. My heart literally leapt out of my chest when I heard that, because that's what I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to work on the computer in a creative way. And it was too late for me to transfer. I'd maxed out. I would max out credits. Like, there's no way I could do it. So I just decided at that point that I would revisit it later after I graduated and find another way to get the training I needed. I moved to San Francisco for a few years, and I started working there. And in graphic design, I got a few different gigs at small firms. And just starting out, then it was competitive. It was the dot-com bomb, early 2000s, and it was a really tough time to find work. So I moved at the wrong time, but I was a survivor. I did it. I made it. I got some fun jobs, and I learned a lot on the job. And ended up I worked for a WedMD. I worked at Merrill Lynch for a little while as a presentation designer at WedMD. I did more like marketing materials and traditional graphic design, corporate stuff. And then I worked for a couple small firms. I bounced around in the beginning, but it was great because I got up to speed so quickly, and I worked under some people that taught me a lot of tricks and things I still use to this day. And then it's just kind of always been a graphic designer. I would say since then, it's been about like 18 years. That has been I would say the bread and butter of what I do. I worked for a lot of corporations and, again, small businesses, bouncing around from advertising to consumer products to toys. And I worked for Mattel for a while, and that was a really fun job. I worked as a Barbie packaging designer. And I met some of my really good friends there that I still have today. And my boyfriend, I met him there. Actually, when I was in San Francisco, I found out about surface pattern design. And from attending a Craigslist ad about marketing your artwork. And I was living there. I was really just trying to find lots of creative communities and classes and things I could join, because I just moved and I didn't really know a lot of people. And I went to this one thing, and this woman was talking about marketing your art, and she was an art agent. She approached me afterwards and asked me if I'd be interested in her repping me at a trade show in New York that you could go and basically show your artwork to companies who would then put it on products, on their products, and license your art and sell it for like 2 years or whatever, and it would be in stores. But this is like back in the day when it was like something nobody really knew about. And she took my work to the show. It didn't sell or anything, but it was my introduction into this world. And it literally took me 10 years later before I was able to do it on my own and go to the show, because it had stayed with me and it was a thread in my life. It was calling me.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you started with the art licensing, but what are some other ways that you make money as an artist?
Yeah, okay. So graphic design, again, it's still been a big part of my life. I do a lot of branding. I've always done logos. I was doing that, at the jobs that I had, and packaging as well. And I was doing surface pattern design too at some of my jobs. So they would have me make the pattern that would go on the bag that would be sold to like Clinique or something like that. We had one job I was at, we were working with a lot of consumer products. So because I knew how to make patterns, I was the go-to person for that, right? Like, make some art that they can use in their campaign for this product that's coming out, that's going on this thing or that thing. So that was kind of neat. So I make money through a few different things. It really varies, and that's what I love about what I do, because it's always interesting. It's not just this one note kind of thing. So I do graphic design still. People still have me do marketing materials for them. I do it for artists a lot too. I have a few artists that I've worked with that, they need postcards, they need logos, they need their website worked on. I have a nonprofit actually just recently that calls me, and I do the illustration for their conferences. So it'll go on their swag, their t-shirts or their bags and things like that. So I'll illustrate that. They'll have me do also just more marketing materials for their shows or their trade shows. I don't do as much of that anymore, but I still do. But so branding, I still love to do, and I do a lot of hand lettering, so I love it when I can use my hand lettering on a logo or some kind of branding or packaging project, as well as the surface pattern. All, like, especially packaging, it's one thing that it all kind of comes together. All my skills come together on. And I also, and aside from the graphic design, I also license my artwork on products. So I'll, through doing the trade shows, and submitting my art to companies or just building relationships with them, they, for instance, will ask me like, oh, Christmas coming up, what do you have Christmas designs, and then we'll work together and they'll pick some and it'll go on their products, and hopefully, we'll get a deal and it'll go on their products and be sold in stores for, over a certain amount of time. It's usually for a term, like a 2-year term, they'll have the art, or a 3-year term. So they're just licensing it for a period of time, and then you get royalties based on the sales. So I have several companies I work with that I receive royalties from. And I also occasionally will coach artists. Artists will come to me with questions about their work, their career, their stuck, whatever it is. And I'm so happy, and it's so rewarding to help them. And whatever, I can guide them on and support them with, I do. And I'll do critiques. I'll look at their work. I'll help them get into art licensing, or I'll just give them or do a consultation on how to do it. I've also coached artists on surface pattern design, and where we do one-on-one classes, and I help them understand the process and the approach, and they'll come up with a small collection working with me, or I'll teach them about the business, all sorts of things, things that I know how to do. So whatever artists need that they see that I can help them with, I definitely love doing that. And then really I'm also started selling my own work too on my own products, which is really exciting. And that's a long time in the making for me. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but I think life happens, or I've been distracted with this or that. And I just said this year I'm doing it, I'm going for it. So I just launched a shop, and I've been sourcing products and making my own things. And that has been extremely fulfilling and rewarding to see kind of your brand come together, all your artwork come together on products and live in a collection on a website, and be able to refresh that and make it, different and for whatever season or the market or whatever holiday, or it's just been really fun. And I do that for other people. So it's nice to be able to do it for me. And I think going back to my art school days, I was trying to find my voice then, and I didn't find it in my art then. And now through these other ways of like selling my own art and putting out my own products, and now I'm finding like this is all kind of coming full circle now. Like, this is the way I want to present my art to the world. This is how I want to show my art and in my voice in a more commercial way and in a less fine arty way. And so it's been a journey.
Definitely.
but it's been really cool to see now in my old age now, to see how it's all fit together and how it's all unfolded, and everything I've learned along the way is now in my toolbox now, and I can help others with it. I can use it for myself. I can, just grow and expand on what I have. And it's been really fun. I really, and this has literally happened, this realization's really kind of happened in the last couple of years, and more so in this last year. So
at this point, because you said you got started like in the 90s when there wasn't as much as we have now, like in terms of graphic programs and even just like social media. I know I started doing things online in 2008, and the landscape is like completely different 10 years later. So with your work being so highly visual and just being in like the spaces that we're in with all of the noise and stuff that's around us, how do you refuel your creativity and your inspiration?
a lot of ways. I think one way is actually, I think everybody should take a break from social media. Um, I did this year and it was extremely helpful. I think there's a lot of noise on there. There's a lot going on. I'm overstimulated by it quite often because it is a marketing tool. So you have to be, I feel I have to be on it, posting and interacting and engaging and all of that and just keeping people up to date. So that can be overwhelming and that could drain your energy. So I find just getting off of there every now and then, or even just taking a day off, or just not thinking about it for a while, that helps a lot. It just frees up brain space like nothing else. And then also, I do a lot of. I'm pretty good about self care. I like to make sure that I'm checking in with myself. So if I know I'm feeling hyperstimulated, overstimulated, tired, burnout, if I see that coming on, I know myself. So I will do what I need to do to balance that out. If it's shutting everything down for the night and go to bed, that's what I have to do. If it's taking a day off and doing something fun, like going to a museum or going to my favorite restaurant or just doing something I enjoy. It doesn't have to be even spending money. It's just going, doing something fun. That helps a lot. And I love to fuel my creativity also by paint. Lately, it's been painting and drawing things that I want to draw for myself and not for a client, not for anything else, just painting for painting's sake. Because I found myself getting back into painting again. As I was saying, kind of revisiting my art school days when I didn't enjoy painting because I was being critiqued to death. Now I can just paint to paint and do things that I like and build my skills up and my painting confidence and find my voice within my painting. It's just put on a fun podcast or a TV show I like or whatever it is, music, and then just kind of get lost in it. And that's how I've been learning about my style, about what I like to paint, about what I want to say in my work. And I think not putting the pressure on yourself is where that space opens up for you to be able to explore and kind of dig in more.
Oh, I love that. What about that times when you have like creative blocks or you just feel like the ideas aren't coming or you, like you said, you just don't even want to paint or you don't want to create things for other people? Do you have things that you do to help you work through those times?
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell people this too because they've asked me. And I think I gave a talk about this. I did at one of our conferences that we were at together. That's kind of funny. So, oh yeah, I got a lot of stuff about this. I Because it happens often, and I really believe that that's when you really have to step back. And if you resist and keep pushing forward and pushing into it and pushing into it when you're not feeling something, it's not going to be good. You're going to hate it. You're going to be miserable, and it's going to feel like a burden. It's just not going to be something you want to get up and do in the morning. So I find you have to kind of just do the opposite. Do the absolute opposite of what you think you're supposed to be doing. So if you feel like you need to be pushing into it and like, I got to solve this, I got to figure this out, don't do anything. Don't do anything. You need that moment, again, to give your brain some space to think. Because I know like everybody has this creative moments when they're not thinking about something, right? When you're in the shower, or when you go for a walk, or when you wake up in the morning, if something pops in your head, or when you're like tuned out and like doing something else is when you have a thought about the thing that, something will come into your brain and you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, right? So you need to let that happen. And because if you're forcing it to happen, it's not going to happen. So stop. If you have the time to take some time off from the project, whatever, an hour, 30 minutes, a day, whatever you can afford, take it off and shift and work on something else. And usually in that moment of shifting is when the ideas come, or is when, you're divinely guided or whatever it is that comes to you, like, the aha moment, whatever happens. And that to me is when that's when I do the complete opposite, and it works pretty much every time. Or I just recharge my batteries. I go do something again that I enjoy. Um, and it's doing the opposite, right? I'm not doing something that I hate. I'm doing something I enjoy. So go do something you enjoy. Go play with your dog, your kids, go like dance your favorite song, go whatever. And it could be 5 minutes, but it gets you out of your head. And so you're able to come back to it with a clearer head, and then you can kind of jump in and start working on whatever it was you were blocked on. And that works. It really does work.
Okay, I want to switch gears just a little bit because I know last year was a year that was particularly difficult for you. And I know when I was looking around on your website, you were saying how you, in the last couple of months, have kind of been getting back to things, getting back to painting, and you even mentioned you took some time off of social media. So how did you weather that time? Like uh, dealing with the loss of your mother and the grief that comes with that, but also getting back to art or balancing your work as an artist?
Yes, I gave myself time to heal. My mom passed away last year, and she was 83. She lived a really long life. We were there with her, me, my brother and sister and I. We hospiced her, um, and we were there with her until her final day. And it was really hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through, and I'm sure anyone else who's been through this understands. Um, and I had to take time off social media. You have to take time off of your life to kind of just heal again. And through that time, this last year, I really didn't want to work. I didn't feel like hustling. I didn't feel like trying to figure out what the next thing was for me. Um, I didn't want to do anything, right? So I didn't. And I was as gentle with myself as I could have been. And excuse me, I'm really happy that I was. Because I feel so much more grounded and just more better about I feel better about everything like right now than I have about myself, about where I'm at, about everything is clearer because I gave myself time to heal. 10,000 things are usually going on in my life, right? So yeah, this year it was all about that for me and giving myself space to grieve and feel and you do go through all those phases of grief. You really do. And I know it's different for everybody, but I know for me, I went through like the textbook versions of it, and it's like a different emotion every day or every hour, or depending on what you were thinking of or what something reminds you of, and it was hard. It was hard, but because I didn't resist, I didn't fight anything, and because I gave myself space, and I didn't put any pressure on myself to work, or that healing transition was really, it was peaceful, and it was the way I think it should have been for me. I think if I had resisted or tried to keep working or just distract myself with things, I would not be where I am right now. I would have taken me longer. It would have taken me a lot longer. So yeah, so this year I was about just focusing on myself, focusing on where I want to go next. It gave me a lot of time to think about things and to have perspective on life. I mean, obviously, when you lose someone that's like your mom, someone so close to you, there's a lot of feelings of uncertainty, of feeling lost. She anchors you, right? Your mom anchors you, so she's like you have like energy connected to your mother, right? And when she's not there, there always felt like there was something missing. There was just something, and it's so hard to articulate this, but there's just a lot of this emotions you've never had before, and so it's come almost like you're kind of, the spotlight's on you now. It's like, all right, what do you do next? Like, how do you fill these voids, or do you fill these voids, or do you just let them be, which is kind of what I ended up doing, and how do you proceed from here without your mother in your life? So it's I'm always gonna be missing her. But now for me, I have to focus on myself now, my healing, my life, how I'm going to proceed with things. Like from now on, how is this affecting me emotionally, or have I changed? It brought up a lot. And because it did, I was able to get clarity on my next moves, where I wanted to go. And it really kind of gave me, I guess, the strength to that I didn't really have before, to start pursuing the things that I want to do, really want to do. Like get over my fears, get over my worries, issues, whatever, and then just be like, okay, this is it. This is my time to focus on me. And I also had lost my father 4 years prior. So, because my mom had me at 40, she had me a lot older in the 70s when women were having babies at 40, right? So now in my 40s, I find myself without my folks, and it's been very strange. It's just been something you really, again, cannot articulate. So now it's like, well, I don't have my elderly parents to take care of. I don't have children of my own, by the way. So it's really all me right now, right? And it feels selfish, and it feels weird, and it's just, again, you have to face all these things, you have to go through it, and I just kind of accepted that that's how it is. This is my life, and now I'm gonna pursue the things I want to do for myself. I have this time now to do it, and I'm going to do it. And I started painting again. I started looking at my artwork that I've done in the past, because it had never quite felt like it was fully formed. I always felt like there was more I could do. It needed to be developed more. And I think I was always kind of scared to take those moves and really dive deep into my work and where I wanted it to go. And I think I was just doing enough to get things moving and working. But with my own personal art, I'm saying that I always knew I could push it more. And I coach people on that. And it's something I wasn't doing myself. So I faced that, and I took a couple months, or 6 weeks, and I really evaluated my work. And I started making new stuff. I really started looking at blank canvases, blank pieces of paper, which are so intimidating, and just got over it. It's kind of like the creative block, right? I just need to dive in and face this fear and do it. And ideas came to me, and I started making new art, and I made this pattern collection that I absolutely loved. And that's what I'm selling now on products in my own art, my own products in my store. And I'm making more art that I could start shopping around for licensing deals as well. And I'm really happy with where it's going and where I can see it progressing from here. This is a great starting point. This is the work that I wanted to put in for so long, and I finally did it. And it's cathartic. It's been really therapeutic to do it. I found so much joy and hours being lost at my desk, just designing the stuff, and I used all my tools, right? I pulled all the tools out of my tool belt. I'm like, okay, this is like a project for me. This is, how do I come out the gates with not a new style, but a more refined style for me that feels more niche down and more clear, and focused. So I kind of tackled it like a design problem, and I did all my tricks and organized my thoughts and made my mood boards and did my sketches, and I went through the whole process, and I started designing. I did everything by hand, and then I brought it into the computer, and then I made it come to life. And then I started putting it on products, and I have a baby blanket that I love right now, some little baby items that I've made, and I have cell phone cases that are really fun, and then I've started making custom art pieces and painting and feeling comfortable painting for people, which was something I never really did much of before. I could, I do it for clients, but I don't really do it for me, just to sell my art. And that's a vulnerable place, but so I'm facing a lot of things I've always wanted to do that I just kind of scared to do. And I'm finding a lot of joy in it. And that it's been exactly what I need right now.
I love that. Okay, so one of my big things about this podcast is I don't want to romanticize entrepreneurship or having your own business or being your own boss, because I think there's a lot of misconception about what it's like to run a business or be an artist that makes a living. So I would love if you would talk to us about mistakes that you've made on your creative journey or even some of your current challenges.
Okay. Um, Mistakes. Uh, oh yeah, there's a lot of those. Um, and for a long time, I was referring to some things as the woulda, coulda, shouldas. And I think that's a really crappy way of looking at your life now that I've, been able to have a clearer picture of things because you're just living in regret, right? And that's what I did for years. Like I said, I had not pursued art licensing on my own because it was just this big animal, this beast of a thing that I thought I had to, to really do and focus on. And at that time, I think I was very comfortable working working the 9 to 5 and actually doing work for myself and putting my art out there and working on this entrepreneurial venture at the time sounded amazing, but it was just like one of those things like, yeah, I don't know. I was just too scared of it and it just seemed like too big of a beast of a thing to do. And that for years was my woulda, coulda, shoulda. That was I call it, and it's a mistake. And I don't know. I don't even know if the word mistake is even a good word to use because I think we all are just figuring it out, right? We're all just doing what we're trying to do at the moment or what we think we're supposed to be doing at the moment. And we find out later on that, okay, it could have been done differently. It could have been done another way, or there is an easier path or whatever it is. And I think that's how we learn, right? So I don't think we're going to grow, stretch, or anything until we make these quote mistakes. So you make them, you learn, and you move forward, right? If you don't take any risks and you don't make any mistakes, you're not going to grow. You're not going to move forward. You're just going to stay where you are, very comfortably stay where you are. So I think those uncomfortable moments or finding out that you did goof up in some way, it's all learning. It's all growth and it's to propel you forward. So for me, sorry, that was the reason behind why I was saying all this. But I realized that it took me forever to do it. So I started taking classes. I moved back to LA in 2006 for surface pattern design. I loved it. I took this it was an amazing class. And it wasn't digital. It was all by hand again and had this fantastic instructor. And it was his very last class. He was an older gentleman, had been doing it for years. And he was teaching us his methods and everything he knew. And he was this worldly man. And he lived in Europe a lot. And he had all this amazing knowledge of art and art history. And he would teach us this great stuff. And I got so into it that he was encouraging people in class to go do the trade show. And the trade show that I was exhibiting with, 3 years prior to that. And he was explaining people how, you start at the show and you can meet your potential clients there and you get your work out in the world and you can meet a lot of people quickly and you build your collections and it's a good way to like get started quickly. You're preparing for a show, you're going to be ready. And I just was like, I don't have the money. I don't want to do this. It's too scary. Well, I watched my classmates do it, right? And one of them I know I'm friends with still to this day hit the ground running from that class and is very successful and has had, a 12-year career now? And I resisted it so much because I thought I had to spend all this money in this trade show and I had to do all this stuff and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Again, it was like a woulda, coulda for a long time until it came back into my life in 2012 and I met a woman who was teaching a seminar on art licensing and had wanted people to come to the trade show with her and she was going to be doing this like group show thing. And I was like, okay, I get you, universe. You keep pulling me back here. So I did the show. And at the show, again, I thought I knew what I was doing, but again, it's another learning thing, right? I get there, I present my artwork, and I still have one of the clients that I have in there is still a really great client of mine. But the work I presented, again, was not great. and I can look back at it and be like, ugh, this is terrible. It wasn't well thought out. It wasn't good. I could see why I didn't get a lot of deals, and at the time, to me, it wasn't like a missed opportunity. I left the show thinking like, oh, that was fun. It was a good experience. But wow, I could have done this and I could have done that. And why didn't I focus on this? Don't beat yourself up. Don't do it, because it just doesn't help. I came back to the show the next year a little more focused, still not as clear as I am now, right? It's just a learning thing. And at that time, I thought like, wow, did I waste my time? Was this a mistake doing these shows when I don't feel like, I was presenting myself the way I could have, or my work wasn't as strong as it could be, or whatever these stupid things that were going on in my head at the time. And to me, I felt like it was kind of like a mistake, even even just like, there's things you learn on the job that you think like you're messing up, you're like, oh, I didn't think I did this project right, or this client's gonna hate it, and I wasted my time on this, or there's just I mean, I can't really get into specifics about that, but if as you're working that you just need to I'm just saying, I'm talking more broadly. I just feel for everybody, just let yourself off the hook, like really let yourself off the hook, because a mistake, it might be a setback, it might cost you some money, it might be whatever it is, right? But there's a lesson to be learned in everything, and it's just, you're just not going to do it next time, right? You're going to do it differently next time. Hopefully you learned from that experience, right? And it'll be better the next time around. Oh gosh, I messed up on jobs where the printing was screwed up. I learned as an entrepreneur that, I should probably have had more money in the bank when I went off on my own. Like that was a big mistake.
I think
right?
everybody
Like,
realizes that after the fact.
everybody, right? Like that's a common one. I think they're all pretty common, to be honest with you. That's why I'm speaking so broadly or generally, because we all have these problems. We all, or quote, problems or mistakes. And I think we all just need to learn from them and just accept them and move forward, because I've done all of those things. Been broke, I screwed up a job, I didn't know where, I thought my expectations were different than the client's expectations, and we weren't on the same page. That's happened, especially in the early years, where I had this one woman. I used to do, oh gosh, when I was living in San Francisco, I was hustling. I mean, I had a regular job, but on the side, I was always trying to do something to make money or do something fun. And I was selling wedding invitations on Craigslist. And because, again, this was before the digital age we have now. And I would put ads up there, and people would answer me, and I would do them. And I do them for friends and family, but I also every now and then would get someone on Craigslist. And this woman completely took advantage of me in the worst way. Like I did all this hand painting work for her on these invitations. I hand painted every single one. I did them digitally, like the wording, but then I hand painted on top of each one. It took a long time. And she basically ended up getting away with paying me only a few $100s. And it was awful. And she was a con woman. Like, she really knew what she was doing to me, and she took advantage of me from the moment she saw me. And I didn't have any business chops back then, and I didn't do a contract with her, and she didn't ask for one, and she was a lawyer. Get this, she was a lawyer.
Oh, that's
And
even
she
worse.
was trying to get a lot of stuff for her wedding for free, and just nickel and diming everybody. I talked to some other person that later on that knew her, and it was just a nightmare job, right? And I learned so much from that job that I will always do a contract. I will always be on the same page with my client. I will always make sure I get what I'm paid. I will always get money up front. I will always, these are the things that we all learn along the way, right? So that's a perfect example of like, I messed up. I actually was really angry about that for a while, but I continued to do work on Craigslist. I continued to put ads up and learn from people. I mean, learn from my experiences that, how people could be. So I need to be ahead of that and make these darn contracts and get everything, all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. So yeah, it happens. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess up, and be okay with that. Like, really be okay with that. I did it my last trade show. I'm gonna be honest with you, not very successful at all. It was in my eyes, I thought it was a flop, and it actually completely. And I put 6 months of my life into that show, thousands of dollars. I came out with stronger work, way strong work. I really spent a lot of time like branding myself, and I had a lot of love for my booth, and people loved my work, and companies would come by, that dream companies came by. Nothing materialized from that show. I got no deals, and it was heartbreaking, and it messed me up for a while, I have to say, because it was so much brain power, so much energy that I put into that, and so much hope, and and all the things you just like, oh, I know I did this. I'm coming out on the show as myself, as my work. I'm putting my work out there, my heart out there, and then it just flops. And it doesn't flop. I'm not going to go that far, because it was well received. The work and the booth and the work I did was well received. It just didn't get a return on investment, right? So I was that, and to me that was really what I wanted, and I didn't get that piece of it. And I consulted with art consultants, and they told me I needed to work on my art more, and I needed to be more niche down, and all the things I knew, all the things in your heart, right? Like really deep down what you're supposed to do, but we're all just scared to do the work, right? And I heard it, and I had a lot of tears, and they were right, and it was hard to hear, and I didn't pursue it for a while. I took some time off. I had to recharge my batteries. I had to replenish my bank account. I had to, if I kept pushing forward, it wouldn't have been, again, it would have been in situations where I would have hated it. So I needed to step back. I stepped back for a little while, and now I came back at a time now where I'm feeling excited to make work. I feel it, and I see it in my work now, and I'm excited about it, and I want to put it out there. This is the place I needed to be working from, not from that. And I learned from that. I learned that I just needed to do more work. I needed to do the work. And it wasn't like, I could have had a better show, and it was a lot of factors involved. I had a poor booth placement. It was a lot of things, right? It wasn't, but I'm not going to like blame it all on all of that. But there was a lot of factors involved too, why the show didn't happen as planned. But and it killed me. It was like, what is going on, But not until recently, honestly, I've been able to take the sting out of that and realize that it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't wasted money. It wasn't a lost. It wasn't, I didn't lose anything from that. I actually learned a lot from that experience. I put myself out there in a big way, and I should be really proud of that. I should be really happy that I did it, and I did it. And now going into any future shows or anything else I do with my work, I feel more confident, more aligned.
Awesome. At this point, we're getting close to the end of the show. So this is a great time for us to do the Pimp Your Brilliance Action Challenge, which is you sharing 3 pieces of advice for someone else who is interested in getting started in art licensing. Okay.
Well, I would say if you're an artist, and art licensing is kind of hot right now, it's so interesting to see that happen, because for years ago when nobody knew what it was. But so now it is kind of popular, and a lot of people are asking me this question. So what I say is that if you're an artist and you have a body of work, say you're a painter, or you do patterns or whatever it is, or illustration work, really think about, first, number one, think about where you see your art in stores. What kind of stores do you want to see it in? What kind of products most importantly, what kind of products do you want to see it on? So what kind of product categories? Stationery, home decor? Do you see it on gift items? Do you see it on gift wrap or wallpaper, whatever it is? Really think about that first. There's a lot of planning involved. So don't just say, oh, I want to be, do art licensing and just start submitting your work all over the world. I did that. That was a quote mistake in the beginning, and I think that really, I don't think that's a good approach at all. I think this is the approach. So really think about what it is you want to pursue. So I would start with maybe 1 category, 2 categories. Like, I want to be in greeting cards. Okay, just start focusing on greeting cards. So figure out what that product category is, and then start researching companies you can reach out to. Okay, so and how you can do that, there's a lot of ways you can do that. Follow artists that you love that license their work. See where they're licensing and who they're licensing to, the type of companies they're working with, and then you could research those companies. It's always a good starting place because people are already working with them. So great, you know that you could potentially work with them too. Um, look, I go and we call it inspiration shopping. Go to stores and turn over the mug you're looking at. Find out who makes it. Go online, do some research, see if they actually have artists on their website they work with, because they'll post if like they work with artists or not. And sometimes they don't though. And just do a little digging around, and you can find out if there's any artists that do work with them. You can also reach out to them and ask them questions if you're brave. Some will write you back. Also, you can call the companies and ask for the art. People don't realize this. You can actually, if you can get somebody like on a corporate line or the operator or whatever, ask for the art director or the creative director or who's in charge of licensing. You're an artist, you'd like to work with them. Some companies will actually give you the email address. So if they are companies that regularly work with artists, some do. Some really do. So don't be afraid to do that research and make those calls. Also, follow companies that are licensing, DM them, reach out to them, or just submit to them or find out through LinkedIn or wherever who you could send your information to. So once you get some names, some email addresses, some company businesses that you want to start with, then start making presentations. And this is where I think it's important to have graphic design skills as a surface pattern designer or somebody who does art licensing. You have to have some kind of Photoshop, Illustrator skills, something, Photoshop specifically, because there will be a lot of production work involved. And I do tell fine artists this that want to license their work. You're more than welcome to go get somebody to do it for you, because I know people who just don't want to be dealing with that part of it, and I think that's great because they'll just delegate it out because it's not their strong suits, right? It's not what they do. So if you do know somebody you can team up with who has really good Photoshop skills, they can help you. But if you want to learn yourself, there's plenty of classes online, Skillshare everywhere that teach this kind of stuff, specifically for art licensing or surface pattern design. And you just need the basic amount of skills to be able to make a presentation, meaning you have to digitize your artwork, get it into the computer, whether you're photographing it or scanning it, know how to recolor it or resize it or just rework it into the format of a greeting card or into the format of the wall art size they want it in. Whatever it is, there's production work involved in that. So for your presentation, you might want to mock it up. Right? You might want to mock it up as a greeting card, or a whole bunch of greeting cards. So just knowing that digital aspects of that will really get you to the next step. And then start sending those presentations out. And the presentations are really like, this is my art in this product format, this is like 4 greeting cards or 10 greeting cards for you, for example. If you have more skills and you can actually mock it up to look like a product, so you can have a picture of a lamp on a lampshade, you put your pattern on the lampshade, that kind of thing. If you know how to do that, even better. You can go the extra mile. Some companies don't necessarily need to see the pattern. I mean, don't need to see the mock-ups, but it does help to go the little extra mile. I think if it's something you really, really want and you really want to get their attention, why not, right? The presentations do take a while to make, so just be patient and get them done and the best way you can. Present yourself in the best way possible. And it's a long game. It's a long game. So those are the 3 things. Figure out the products you want your art on. Maybe pick one category to start with. Research those companies that make those things and license, and then make your presentations and get them out into the world. But do remember, it is a long game. So if you get a lot of rejection in the beginning, it's okay. You just keep submitting, keep showing them new work, and eventually something will hit. And then when it does, it'll just just keep at it, and you'll just keep building your clientele.
Yay. And then my favorite question of the show, books. Do you have any book recommendations, things that we should read or check out?
Oh, yes. I talk a lot about, I think in the last year for me especially, I've had this kind of like inner journey that I've been on. So I like to read a lot of books about like personal growth and, the inner journey, right? One was recommended to me is called The Power of Joy. I got it on Amazon, and it's the author is Nick Breau, Breau. I think it might be, yeah, it might be a self-published book. It is fantastic. Not a very big book, and I keep this by my desk. I keep it with me. It's an awesome reminder of how I want to be living my life. And it's kind of like now it's like a reference book. I literally can just like thumb through it and read any page and be like, oh, that's right. So basically, this is what it says. The Power of Joy, a straight up guide to lasting freedom, effortless abundance, and a limited life. And I love that title. And he really does go into all those things in a very clear, easy to understand way. And that's what my friend told me. Get this book because it really just gives you an overview and the basics and practical ways of doing all of these things. And it's such a succinct way. Instead of reading like, a monster book on how to like live your life, this is like a roadmap for it. And he gets into different things like the part I really resonated with is like, what's holding you back? There's a whole section on that. And he breaks down the different types of fears that everyone has. And, do you have a fear of success? Do you have a fear of failure? Those kind of things. And I really resonated with that because the way he explains what those are, I was like, oh, I always thought I had a fear of this, but I actually, based on your description, I have a fear of that. And wow, things started clicking for me, And then he walks you through how to like, recognize what kind of blocks that you have, mental blocks, energetic blocks, whatever that is. And really, he just talks about like being happy and getting out of your own way and kind of letting the universe take the wheel and how to do that and how this all works and how to just find joy within yourself. So I love this book. I think like I said, again, it's an easy read. It's for everyone to read and understand. It's not like over your head metaphysical book or new agey like woo-woo book. It's very clear. And if there anyone who's interested in that kind of thing, this is a good book to start with.
And if listeners want to get in contact with you, where can they find you online?
You could find me on my website, JeanettaGonzales.com. I'm also on Instagram. You could find me there under my name, or my handle is NettDesigns, NettDesigns. And I'm also on Twitter at NettDesigns, and and on Facebook, NettDesigns.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Jeanetta, and being on the show and sharing your journey and about your healing and all these awesome things about art licensing, which I think would be really beneficial to several people I know that listen to the show. So thanks again.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.